Welcome to Product as a Star. I am your host, Will Cunningham, and on this show, we talk to folks interested in getting the word out about a product, good, service, message, or even a call to action. Today's discussion will feature a conversation with Molly Basler. Molly, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Will. Thank you for having me. And I'm
A conversation with Molly Basler. Molly, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Will. Thank you for having me. And I'm
a conversation with Molly Basler. Wow. Welcome to the show. Pause for 1 second.
Well, thank you for having me. And sorry.
Okay, no worries, no worries. We like to roll with the punches. Spontaneous. We're still going to keep it moving. So why don't we just start off with telling our audience a little bit about where you are originally from. Are you from this area? And then also, how did you find yourself where you are if you're not from the area?
I am born and raised in California, Los Angeles, downtown LA at St. Vincent's Hospital. My first 5 years were spent in Gardena, California, and then my dad moved us out. As he grew as a business person, he moved us out to the San Fernando Valley, raised in Woodland Hills, in a beautiful house that overlooked the Woodland Hills was the suburb of the San Fernando Valley. So it was, I lived out there, and then I moved to Westwood. Lived in Westwood for a while, moved to San Francisco for a few years, finished my education there, and stayed up there for a while and did some artistic endeavors, and then came back to LA because it's home. So I've been in LA now for 20, 30 years and living in the district that I'm running for office for.
Right on. District 5, right? That's District 5 for those that know. How did you find yourself particularly in District 5? Because if I'm not mistaken, I saw some Beverly Hills. I saw some things like this when I was researching you. Maybe you can explain the demographic.
Yeah. Well, so, I didn't know this until I got involved in the Democratic. As I became a community organizer, I learned obviously about the districts and the assembly districts. There's all these different districts, and most people don't know what district they live in. I didn't know. Like I said, until I got involved. So to find out, you can Google it and say, what city council district do I live in Los Angeles? And they'll ask for your zip code, and it will tell you your area, your district. So, it's interesting. How did I find myself in the district? Westwood is part of the district. Century City is part of the district. Wilshire Corridor goes down, right? Wraps off down Santa Monica, but it misses Beverly Hills because Beverly Hills is its own city, has its own mayor. Then it goes Century City, Bel Air, Holmby Hills, and it goes over Mulholland into Encino, goes down Beverly Boulevard, 3rd Street, goes into Mid-City where the Grove is. And then and a little bit of Fairfax, like Fairfax up stops at Melrose. The districts are their boundaries are very interesting. And one, street can separate a district, like District 5 from District 4. And so I just, I think when I was, involved, I was in Hollywood. I was an actor and a model for several years. And I started, I lived in the district. I didn't know it was District 5, but I always was, off of Fairfax area. Westwood I lived in, moved around, then I left, like I said. I lived in Santa Monica for several years. And so I just love this area. I did move from Santa Monica. I moved to Hollywood Hills. I got married, got divorced, and moved into District 5, and I've stayed here. So, and I like the energy of District 5. I did not want to go back to Santa Monica because it's beach area for me, gets me lazy. And I like the hub of the Mid-City, even though it's gotten very congested, but I like it.
Wow. So it is a lovely area too, District 5. I could see the appeal. So, I am curious to learn something. Is this your first time running for office? Because you did mention that you were an actress before, and from what I saw, it was you were in the Karate Kid.
Yeah,
Were you really? I
yeah.
used to love that movie. Who were you in the Karate Kid? Just for our audience,
I
just
had
so.
a small role. I was actually in Mel Brooks films. I did a lot of commercials. I did lots
Yes.
of print work. Um, so I was on a trajectory to have quite a career, but and I was being, sent to acting school by Paramount Studios,
Mm.
and I knew a lot of people in the industry. So Karate Kid, I played, it was a small role. I played the cheerleading coach.
Oh, okay.
Um, uh, you know, and then from there, I think that's when I just got sort of lost. I wasn't really guided in my career as an actor.
Mm.
And if I had had more support, I think more family support,
Mhm.
but I got a little off track in the party scene. um, and I lost my way. So I decided to regroup. That's when I went back to school. I went to USC for a while. I went 2 years at SC in the Bachelor of Fine Arts program, which is acting in theater and film. But then it was still too close to Hollywood for me. I kept getting drawn back into the whole scene, and so that's when I left. I went up to San Francisco, and I did theater up in the Northern California, and I completed my education at Mills College, and then
Mills
came.
College. Is
It's
that
in
in the Bay
Oakland.
Area?
It's in
Okay, yeah,
Oakland,
I'm familiar. I'm familiar. Okay.
which I loved, and I was but Mills College, I was still doing theater. I loved theater, but in LA at the time, not a lot of people cared about theater, and you couldn't really make a living at it. So I was always pushed, to do roles like the Karate Kid, which I liked. And I didn't realize then that those were all stepping stones, but I wanted, I was studying Shakespeare, and I became sort of I wanted these grand roles, and I wasn't ready for them actually. But I
Mm.
had no one really telling me that. So, and plus I got lost in the, like I said, the party scene. And then from Mills College, I came back and got involved in, I got agents. I always had agents, and I was always doing it, working, but I never got into a place where I was working consistently enough to make a living, which is,
Mm.
that's what we want as an artist, to make a living from what we love, to make a living
Right.
from our craft.
Mhm.
And so then I just sort of, I kept going into the acting scene. I kept going. I was doing a lot of runway modeling for friends who owned these boutiques, and
Mm.
but it was never making enough. And so I was starting these artistic projects, which were really actually kind of cool, photography books. Um, I played a musical instrument. I was, but it just I never catapulted into the next level. And then I got married again, got divorced.
Mm.
And then I had to, I had an awakening about my life and this is bringing me to why I'm running for office and how I became driven to serve and to help people, planet, and animals. Because I had been in the Hollywood scene and sort of lost myself with, drugs and alcohol and the whole scene. I got sober,
Wow.
and
Congratulations.
that was my. It's like I woke up. I woke up to a world that I wanted to serve, people that I cared about. I wasn't in this whole, and now I still love the arts, but it was, I woke up I woke up to being of service. And one of the ways and part of my journey was I started to study yoga and meditation.
Okay.
And that woke me up even more. And so then I started to teach yoga and meditation. And this was
Mm.
all as I was living a sober life. And I began teaching yoga and meditation. to people in domestic violence shelters, and women coming out of in rehab, and people really struggling. I felt called to. And I started this wellness business. And then, of course, I went into general population, started teaching. I had product. Oh, I became a vegan. That was my first activism. I started marching and lifting my voices for the animals. Realized that people needed help. So I started lifting my voices for people. Then I realized the planet was in trouble. And so it was this evolution of years, right? Of focusing on this. And then it all came together for me about 5 years ago. And I thought, I heard Al Gore, the former VP, speak. His movie, Inconvenient Truth, the sequel, came out, and I heard him speak, and I went and trained with his organization, the Climate Reality Project. I went to Pittsburgh, and I became a climate reality leader. You get certified, you learn all about the science. And I came back from there and hit the ground running and never turned back. I started writing articles. I started speaking all over LA, giving climate reality, talks, getting people educated about the plight of the people, planet, and animals, and what we could do as individuals to help with that. And then I started bringing, I came up with this idea about the Green Dream campaign for the Democratic Party to hold them accountable for what they're doing to the planet. Because in the Democratic Party platform, it says, oh yeah, we care about the environment and we're doing this, but they're not doing any of it. Wow. So I launched the Green Dream campaign. I had senators and congressmen there, and it was beautiful. I had all these Democratic clubs come, and they signed on to the pledge. So as a party, that we would live this green life, that we would, and also educate people on how to live a green life. And like, why isn't our capital in Sacramento, our governor, why isn't that green and sustainable? Why isn't City Hall green and sustainable? We ask people to go green and sustainable, but our leaders aren't leading by example.
Right. And that's very important to have people and folks that are tasked with the responsibility of speaking to the public and leading them to be not just leading with the words, but also leading with the demonstration, which is why I like, when I was researching you, I found it interesting that you actually want to get out there and do some town halls. Can you talk to our audience about what type of advantage you might gain by getting out there and reaching the people in such an intimate setting?
Well, I believe that leaders need to lead by example and also go out. The people who vote us in, who pay our salary, should know who we are and what we're doing. They should know what their money, when we vote in these propositions, HHH, to house the homeless. Now, all of those, that was $1 billion, right? 1.3 billion. They've done nothing to that. That's been held in accounts. Lots of corruption go on. So I'm saying we need new leadership that is accountable, shows people where their money is being spent, shows charts, right? What's going on, what prop did, because what happens is people vote in a proposition and then we forget about it, right? 5 years later, people go, oh yeah, whatever happened to Prop HHH? So I want to make sure that those things get, that people are educated about it. And I feel the way to do that is town halls, like once a month at strategic places like Pan Pacific Park, Westwood Veterans Park, all the green spaces we have, Holmby Park, and they all have rec centers and things, and gather people, and people can come and ask me questions, and they get to know who their leader is. And I say leader because politicians tend to stay in the status quo, and leaders lead us out of that. And that's what we need. Right. We need leadership. No, we don't need any more politicians. So, I'm grassroots, first-time candidate. I don't consider myself a politician. I am a leader, community organizer, small business owner. I've been helping people, you know, for years now, getting them healthy physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Now it's like I'm running to actually have a bigger platform to help more people and the planet and the animals as an animal advocate.
Wow, you have a lot of passions. I see that. I did have on here to talk about some other passions that you might have outside of politics and these new endeavors that you're taking, but mainly for the fact to show if there was any transferable skills that you would be able to use from that from that the previous experience that you had from being an actor, actress, and learn and following your theatrical pursuits to now using some of that as a utility belt to then draw from and to also gain an advantage in what you're using now. I'm always curious about transferable skills from another life coming into another life to play a role.
Well, I think it makes me, the camera, I love the camera. I love the stage.
Mhm.
I love being in front of an audience. That all comes from, and it's funny, I never realized how much I loved those things until I started running again.
Huh. Interesting.
So and even as a yoga teacher, though, I love classes. I love standing in front of people. I love talking and sharing my passion. That's all comes from my acting. And actually, I was at an event talking. It was a fundraiser, and it was the person who was hosting it is in theater. I still have a lot of friends who are in theater and actors and creatives, and so the audience was sort of filled with film actors and a documentary maker. And this guy came up to me and he said, "Why aren't you acting?" So I said I used to. So it was funny that I was at an event as a candidate, and he was saying you should be acting, but I think it was also because of how I present, and I learned all of that when I was acting, and I do. And one of my I have a campaign video, and that was so much fun for me to be in front of the camera again and coming up with ideas for, the scenes and what I wanted to say. So I think and I think what separates my candidacy too is I'm a creative, and I told my team when I started, I want to do things differently. I want interesting things, how I campaign to be artistic. And I think where I'm bringing my artistic is the ideas I'm bringing in my campaign that people aren't doing. They do. Everybody, I'm telling you, in the Democratic Party, and they all do the same thing.
Yeah.
Even every party. I shouldn't say the Democratic. They all do the same thing. They all all have yard signs. They send out mailers. They do all these, and I want to I want to use light sources. They're called Batman lights.
I've seen them. Yeah.
Yeah, and put those on strategic places all around the district. So it says Molly Basler. So instead of wasting yard signs, because that's wasteful, that's a tree, unless they're made from hemp. So I want to do light sources, and I want to do bike rides around the district, and like I said, and town halls, even before I am elected, gathering people. And instead of mailers, we're trying to come up with something different about that. I don't use plastic at my events. So asking people, like creating a new language, actually, in the sense of, I don't use the word fight. I don't say, I will fight for you. I use, let's create positive change. I mean, little things like that are modernizing our campaign. I don't take any money from special interests.
Wow.
Oil and gas, developers, anything that harms people, planet, and animals. And so I'm trying to I am only taking money from green companies, people, and trying to take money from the people that are doing good for the planet. But they're not used to that. When I call a green company, they're not used, or a vegan company, or getting vegan, like Beyond Meat. Now he's a $23.2 billion company at this point. And so but I haven't heard back from them. They're not used to supporting candidates, but that is what's going to shift everything. So oil and gas, the people that are meat and dairy, people who are giving lots of money, the developers, to candidates, we call it dark money instead of light money. Why not have industries that are doing good to give to candidates? And it's fascinating how we've gotten into these ruts, these old ways of being, and we need new ways of being, or we are going to extinct ourselves as a species.
I mean, we see examples of a government that is labored with bureaucracy, trying its hardest to keep up with the cutting edge of technology. I bring it up because it's important for us to, as you say, modernize the Democratic Party and all the other parties associated with it. All of them need sort of a technological modular approach to the future, as opposed to the rigidity of a legacy system, if that makes any sense. So I'm encouraged to hear you talk about that. Also, in researching, I also found that in your in the environment, the environmental issues really hit home for me. I used to work for a nonprofit organization as well, raising awareness about clean water action, or clean water initiatives in the Bay Area. Also, so right out of San Francisco, I was also have grassroots and community organizing in my backgrounds. So, and I noticed about the environmental and climate change issues that you did bring up composting, which is really unique for a candidate to really even be talking. I heard you talk about these types of issues that are really specified. They're not the vague talking points of traditional politicians. It really gives us an invite to conversate with you when there's more topics that you're talking to and talking about underneath the cloak of sustainability.
So you want me to talk about that?
Yeah, I would love to. I mean, that's it, to me. Let's talk about some of the specifics of your, like, I'm concerned about like how, okay, it's like global warming and these types of climate change on a local level and how it contributes to it on a major level. So it makes it really important for what we do on a local level, because it does. So getting the words and how did you find yourself even learning about this type of a thing? Maybe just because it gives people an invite to maybe want to talk to you more and learn more about your interest in sustainability.
Yes, of course. I got my interest in, well, I told you, then I saw Al Gore, and but before that, I started noticing, especially as a vegan, as someone plant-based, is that one of the greatest ways we can help the planet is by eating differently, and driving electric cars and bike riding more and all of those things. And so I started to notice all those things and see that the planet was, I mean, really, we are on a trajectory of really bad. I mean, it's already happening. People always go, oh, we have time. No, it's here. The climate crisis is here. We just can't, we're trying not to make it worse at this point. But so when I, as a vegan, a yogi, all that, I started noticing, what could I do as an individual, and what could I tell people to do? So it would be little things. So if you can't go vegan right away, maybe do a meatless Monday. I think a big thing is stop using plastic, because we do not have a recycling system here. And when we put stuff in the blue bin, it goes into the oceans because our recycling is all fouled up. So one of the things, so I noticed, so as I got more into these things and things that I was asking people to do, I started to learn about them, right? Don't use plastic. There are ways to do that. You can get filters, on your faucets, so you don't have to buy plastic bottles. Buy clean canteens. Have glass bottles and then refill those from your filtered water. And always have a clean canteen it's so many things. So composting. Now, what's interesting, January 1st, now nobody in LA knows about this because nobody's talked about it. We're supposed to now be composting. we have a system that, and we are allowed to put food in our green bins, which were before allocated to vegetation, our leaves and our stuff. Now you can put food in those starting January 1st. Nobody knows about that. I didn't even know about it. Because I was thinking we got to be composting, helping getting the methane out of our air. So that's another thing. Recycling, I want to work on. Why in one of the wealthiest cities, supposedly the progressive city, the green city, we do not have a working recycling center, and that we're taking all of this waste and making stuff out of it.
Right.
And the reason, because we have a huge oil and gas lobby that has billions of dollars that pays off politicians up in Sacramento to vote against legislation that would help us move forward. I mean, it's ludicrous that we have leaders that are actually taking money and I never knew that, but it's true, because I have fellow friends who are senators up in Sacramento trying to outlaw plastic, and they keep getting voted down because oil and gas lobbyists. And they did say, though, the way we are going to beat this oil and gas lobby is by the grassroots efforts.
Yeah.
The people, the day-to-day people stopping about, that we stop supporting them by not using their products. Now, I don't buy things on Amazon either. That's another issue. Small business owners need our support. And buy local, and it helps global. But that's how, then it started for me. And I realized little things become big things. As Al Gore says, if I change a light bulb, it doesn't really matter. But if 1 billion people change a light bulb, it makes a difference.
Right, right.
And so, yeah, it's composting. It's looking into also businesses that you buy products from. How are they treating the environment? How are they treating their workers? Do they have slave, it goes down to how are these products being produced? Are they kind to people and the planet? We have to take care of each other and really shift our mindset that we are all in this together. And I don't care if you're a billionaire, the climate crisis will affect every one of us, but it does affect the poorer nations, the poorer people, even in LA, first.
It really does. I'd like to go back for a second, because you said something that that jumped out at me. Outside from the issue with recycling, you said that as of the 1st, Los Angeles residents are now allowed to compost, and you said no one knows, and you didn't even know, which brings up another issue. Isn't that another problem, distributing these messages and getting them out so that people find out about them?
Yes.
Because is there? Do you? I mean, I like the town hall approach, because it seems to help fix that problem by getting in front of people, like in a more intimate gathering. What do you think about that?
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. Like Paul Koretz, who's the current council member, or our mayor too. Our mayor should have public service announcements. He should have a YouTube channel where he's talking to people and telling them about this, having town halls where he's educating, and the council people and the mayor it would be so great if they were on Spectrum One, the local news station, announcing these things. Hey guys, we have a new initiative that just is going through. This is what you do. Now our green bins. And so, yeah, we have these things in place, and then the message gets lost in the translation because no one's giving the message. We have leaders who are, I just think, impotent in areas like that. They hide out. And don't get things communicated to the people that they're supposed to be serving.
It's a great point.
Huh?
I said it's a great point you're making, and I just want to add it. I just want to add a little to it, because when you give a message that is interesting, such as sustainability and compostability throughout LA. That's going to be a topic that's going to be a warm invite to people who already think sustainable, but maybe are not interested in politics. They now have a legit interest and an invite. And these other politicians, it sounds like, are somewhat insulated and reluctant to get in front of people for whatever reason. So I'm encouraged to not just, I want to come to one of these town hall meetings and, get in front and listen to what's going on as well. Mainly because of what you said, who's going to put the message out? Well, we at Product as a Star, we welcome anybody to come up here and update the people on what's going on and let people, know what's happening, such as what's happening right now with you and running for office. And that's going to lead to detailed information that then the listener is going to bond with, and they're going to bond with not just the message, but the messenger. So I think you have a really good opportunity going into 2022 because you're very creative. You seem to thrive in front of the camera, where most seem to be reluctant and stiff. A lot of politicians are not known for overwhelming charisma in front of the camera, and so I'm seeing a lane there. And I'm wondering also on the name of education, when is the upcoming election? Because that's one thing that, as far as getting the message out, people should know when the voting is going to happen, right?
Right. So the voting is so for the primary, it's going to happen June 2022. Okay. So right now I've been campaigning now for over a year. Wow. And so what this is how campaigns start. We registered September 8th, 2020. Okay. And then we spend time raising funds. And then after January, you start spending those funds to get the message out and get yourself elected. Okay. So that's when, now my fundraising is low because I'm the Grassroots candidate, and there's 6 of us running. Mm-hmm. So there's 2 that are leading the fundraising. Doesn't mean they're the better candidate, but they're getting more attention because they've raised the funds. I call them, they're part of the political machine. Mm-hmm. So, but we're gonna catch up, and I won't be able to raise. One gentleman has raised $500,000, and you don't even need that much to run a competitive city council run. 300,000 is good, or even 250, and especially if you have volunteers and so forth working. And grassroots candidates like Nithya Raman won. She beat David Rue in District 4, and she was an incumbent and had less money. AOC back in the Bronx, she had was up against a major guy who had outraised her, and she did it because I think people are sick and tired of the status quo, keeping things in play and not doing anything to make changes in LA. And LA is dying. It's a dying city. And people we've got to take care of our homeless. We've got to house them. We have a climate crisis. We have crime is on the rise. And because also we have, crime is on the rise, also because of COVID, but we have more people living here now, and we don't educate our people. Our school system is one of the worst in the country. Can you believe that? In one of the wealthiest cities in the world, we have the worst school system. And so people go to school who can't afford to go to a private or a charter, and so they're educated in a system that doesn't educate them to get jobs. It's such a systemic issue, and nobody's talking about that. Right. Nobody asks why is our school system terrible?
Maybe because the school lobby is not as powerful as the gas lobby.
Right. Well, probably, or money's going somewhere, or money's making, people on the school board get paid off because they want the charter schools. I don't really know because I'm not in there yet. I'm not in, but I ask people, and most people don't know. They're like, oh, I don't know. And people involved in local government. it goes on, and we've learned to accept the unacceptable. And I'm saying, no, you don't accept the unacceptable. We have to stand up and make our leaders accountable, and also vote in new leaders who would never do that.
Right.
We need a new leader who leads with integrity and honesty and would not sell out the people.
I mean, you would think that wouldn't be so trivial, or like you would think that would be more commonplace with so many politicians standing on the bedrock of integrity and honesty. But it's just positive. A lot of it comes off as pageantry because, oftentimes they get in office and it's always another case. You hear a lot in society, especially through media, about how important it is to vote locally. So could you talk about why it's important could you educate our audience why it's important for them to go out and vote, on a local level?
Yes. I mean, that's why also after the new year, I'm going to really start walking the hoods and knocking doors and going to businesses. I'm going to gather people in parks and start really getting the message out, because local government is where it starts. I mean, and like I said, I didn't realize that. So I totally get it that, a lot of people they're focused on their lives, they're doing their thing, and local government, and they'll vote for a name, like a name they've heard, or someone they've known. That's how people get voted in over and over.
Familiarity, and over. Sure.
Right. So I'm trying to also, one of the things is educate people, vote local. And one thing that's good about June 2022 is the mayor's race is there. There's a lot of different races, so people will go to the polls.
Right.
But sometimes they'll vote for mayor and not vote for a city council. So that's where I want to step up and let people know, local is so important, because local is where it begins, and then it comes out, it feeds up from everywhere from that. That's where we vote on propositions. And if we have leaders who are not honest or running with integrity, they take our hard-earned money that we pay taxes and they use it accordingly, the way they want to, not the way that it was told to you. And that is what I didn't understand either. Our property taxes, our school system, our everything starts at the local government. And if we have local government that is not serving the people, they're serving big corporations and special interests, this is what we get. If you want to see what your local government is doing for you, go out on the streets.
Wow. And that's a testament to so many that's a testament in so many ways to inactivity. I mean, you can point and see that is a result of neglect, not enough resources. We have options. We have, Los Angeles is robust enough to get a groundswell if you would just get out and talk to the people. The more you talk to people, the more you realize that people want to help and actually want to affect change. And so for fundraising for you, how do people, I have a few questions on the fundraising aspect, like, how does somebody contribute to your campaign? And this is a two-part question. How does somebody contribute to your campaign? And are you allowed to accept cryptocurrency for campaign contributions? Because that would open up a whole nother topic. And it's just a whole nother world as far as funds and getting a message out, because seems to be a lot of reluctance on that too. But it's a technology that seems to be here to stay.
That's true, because we're a global economy now, so it makes sense. Right. But no, I am not allowed. I mean, city ethics, I can't even tell you to begin with. The LA city ethics, it's unbelievable. They make it so difficult for grassroots candidates to run, because ultimately they don't want people like me to run. Because I shake up, if I get to a certain point, people like us, we shake up the status quo, and people don't like that. So no, I can't take cryptocurrency, but I do think it is the way of the future. I mean, we can't even accept like, I would love to have a square on that plugs into my phone, right? So if I'm out at a park, I can
Right.
just, take a credit card swipe and it goes into my, not my account, my campaign account, but it's so strict, the LA city ethics. And it's so funny because they're so strict with us running this race, city council. And yet there's corruption everywhere in LA.
Yeah.
I find it to be like, oh my gosh, you guys. And we have a minimum. We can only take an $800. That's our maximum. That's why it's also really hard to raise a lot of money, because our maximum is $800. You can't go over that. And so, and then how you donate, you just go to the website and there's a donate button and then you fill out something. And I don't sell the list. It goes into my person. I have a treasurer that takes care of everything. I have a campaign consultant and I have a small staff, but because we're grassroots. And so I'm hoping to get volunteers in the new year that, and I will be out there more for people and letting everybody know what I'm doing, where I'm going, speaking. People can ask me questions. I want to be an open book.
I think that, I'm sorry, go ahead, please.
No, I was just going to say, so people know what I'm doing, and when elected, that they know where their money's going and they understand things. Most people don't even understand. Well, also it can be really boring. local government can be really boring because, it's not, I hate the word. But it's not as sexy as federal government, the president and Nancy Pelosi, it's all that. Right. So I even know friends on the progressive, they deal only with federal, or state. But local, they sort of, go, oh, well, but it is true. Without our local government becoming progressive, real progressive, we say progressive, but progressive means we take care of our people. Everybody is housed. We have a green system that is taking care of our climate crisis. Small businesses are taking care, and we have justice for all. There's not, food, people are hungry in this. I was just on a call before this about, feeding all our hungry, food for all. Why not good, healthy, vegan food for all people? It's like, it's crazy in this wealthiest city in the world that we are not taking care of our brothers and sisters. And, especially in some of these food deserts, they call them, where's the city council? That's what I would love to ask fellow city council members. Some of these districts, they don't have trees. They don't have good food. Like we're living in the dark ages. Come on, guys. We're all in this together. A district is not live in a bubble. We are in this together. And that's another thing I want to do too, is unify. Why aren't we unifying and working together? So we aren't fighting against each other.
Unification is a tough one, right? Because oftentimes we hear the call for unity, and this is something that I always want people to think about. Going further into unity and unifying communities, territories, districts, youth, age demographics, elder, youth, all these different kind of groups that are out here floating around, to connect them and unify them. Okay, what would that look like? And in my esteem, I think that finding the application to what that would look like then forms an invite for people to say, oh, this is what it looks like. There's a visual component of what it actually looks like to unify people. And there's ways you can do that. Celebrity basketball games, picnics, doing things together as a community, multiple fund drives together, nonprofits joining up from different interest points. There's a lot of ways to do that. It's just, again, like you said, who's doing it. So we celebrate the fact that you're taking action in the right steps. It does make me want to ask a question, with all of these different endeavors and things that you have going on. How do you keep track of everything?
Well, I have a team that helps me.
Right.
And I have to be really focused. It's so funny. I forgot, this is how focused I've been. I forgot that it was Christmas.
That puts you in pretty good company.
Uh,
It really does.
Plus, I celebrate differently now than I did before. I don't believe it's a consumer. I don't believe in waste. I believe in as little waste as possible, and I think we have to. We don't have the luxury anymore to live life the way we used to.
Right.
I went to a celebration, a Christmas celebration, that I was just, I was in shock. There was so much waste and paper, and people were, it was just sloppy to me. And I just think it's just about taking steps back and also teaching people. Like, we don't need to wrap things anymore in a tree. I mean, that's a tree. Toilet paper that we use we are killing the boreal forest, the ancient forest up in Canada, that is part of the lungs of this planet, and we are tearing it down and killing species. And I mean, it just shocks me. And people aren't willing to use recycled toilet paper or recycled, which I use all, paper towels, and doing things differently. I don't have a Christmas tree. I would never have a Christmas tree anymore unless it was a live one and I could plant it.
Right.
And I'm not saying, I just think we have to find new ways of being, and it still can be joyful. Consumerism, and trust me, I was raised on it. I was raised to be a little consumer and shop and buy, and bigger the better, the more the this, and I have learned that in the simplicity and is also the most beautiful, can be. It's just shifting our perception. And that is also, I think, leaders leading with that, and telling people how we can do things differently. How can we have a sustainable Christmas? I think that's cool.
Right. Merry Christmas is a sustainable Christmas.
Right.
Right. I mean, if you think about it. So as we find ourselves drawing this one to a close, there's a couple of things I want to establish with you. Is I would like you to come back on the show a couple more times and talk about the town halls, and maybe
that'd be great.
I'd like to have Product as a Star at a few of those town halls just to have a presence and keep people updated on what's going on, because it's more of, the more I talk to you, the more that I realize that you're a creative who pretty much reinvented herself. You discovered, that there's more to life, and that, you turned setbacks and, as you say, being lost into determination and a need to serve. So that's a different slant. It's a different angle, usually, from the same old club of politicians coming to us with the same. So it's a refreshing, in a lot of ways. And so I'm encouraged to figure out more about what you have going on. I'm encouraged to learn more about you. With that being said, what is the ideal version of you in 5 years from now? What is the ideal version of Molly Basler, the newly found politician, 5 years from today?
Wow, that's a good question. If I win, my term is 4 years. Okay. So probably in 5 years, I would just be terming out. I don't think I would run again for city council. I'd like to run for something else. If that is, I want to see what I can do as a council person. And if I succeed and I win and I make a big difference and I do good, I would move into I would like to run for something else, possibly mayor. Or a Senate seat, maybe go federal. I don't know. I have to see, but I would like to stay in service. And so I'm sorry. Well, was it if I win or just if?
No, this is just, and if you could wave a magic wand and say, okay, 5 years from now, it's going to be, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to have this. I'm going to beat and won this whole little competition. I'll be deciding if I want to level up, to mayor or not.
So if I had a magic wand, I will win this race. I will serve the district and the city, not just District 5. I want to unify the city council, that we're working together for the greater good of all. I want to feed the hungry, house the homeless. I want to clean up our shelter systems. I want wildlife corridors. I want to be protecting our lands, our sacred spaces. I want to clean the air and water for all Angelenos. I want justice for all. And then move, after doing that, I would like to move into a higher office where I can do bigger things and help more people and keep my focus always on service and lead as an example. I would also like to greenize City Hall. That means solar panels, using products that are serving the people, planet, and animals, not doing harm. Also, I would like to work with the governor, greenizing Sacramento, the capital there. I mean, it's unbelievable to me that they were still using styrofoam like a year ago, like in there. So little things like that matter. So those are the things I would like to do. And then maybe run for president.
Well, I mean, it's wide open. And speaking of that, with you seeing how certain people can generate a large fan base outside of politics and then get that to kind of come into politics, I'm asking that because there's all this opportunity as far as technology is concerned in software. I'm a software developer myself. I have my own software company, and we issued our own cryptocurrency to power that, and to advertise. It's based on advertising and allowing people to make donations or purchase products, goods, or service in real time in their cars. So if somebody was hearing this right now, they'd be able to pull up your website and make a contribution in real time. And that's the type of way that we plan on streamlining productivity with our software company. The name of the software company is called Agua Technology. And it makes me bring up Andrew Yang and the data dividend.
Oh, right.
Because we're doing that without running on a platform. I'm not a politician at all, but we already have a plan to give all of our users who are using our app, they're going to receive a data dividend as opposed to allowing us to listen to certain things. And it will be transparency, which is also something that you echoed earlier in this conversation, transparency. But I digress. The question is about Andrew Yang and incorporating technology with bureaucracy. Is that something that you think needs to happen?
I'm sorry, incorporating what? Technology with bureaucracy?
In other words, giving bureaucracy in the paperwork process of our government a technological upgrade.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah, to streamline.
That's what I was saying about LA City Ethics. They're like in the dark ages.
Right.
I mean, they're still using paper. Like I have to hand people, do I have one near me? I have to hand people an envelope. And then look at this paper. And I'm a green person. Look at this. That's it, and it has to be 8 by 10. I wanted like a little square. It has to be this size, and you have to fill out, and then wasting, although this is recycled, but still. And then, I mean, it's like in the dark ages, instead of using a square or having an app. Yes. Oh my gosh, yes. I am like, we have to go completely change bureaucracy, because technological modernizing, going into technological changes will get rid of this bureaucracy.
Right. And that's where we get productivity and change in what we might call real time. Right. So hopefully, maybe we can join forces behind the scenes somehow and work together, because
I would love that.
I mean, we're dealing with the music industry and podcasts and things like that. People with the audio content that need to streamline visibility to their products.
I also have a podcast.
Oh, really? Why don't you tell us about the podcast, and maybe I'll come on your podcast sometime.
Yeah, I would love to. It's environmental. It's called Green Dream, the Green Dream Podcast.
The Green Dream Podcast. Okay.
Molly Basler. And I have, it's all about educating people on the green, obviously the climate crisis, and what they can do I always have an action at the end of the podcast, what they can do to help mitigate the climate crisis. And as a community, I talk about everything. I've had guests on. So I've taken a little hiatus because I'm campaigning, but yeah, please go check it out. I'd love to have you on my podcast.
Oh, well, great. I'm definitely going to take you up on that because I like to be in front of the camera too. I also, no, but I appreciate you making this time for us. And this is a very, we're looking forward to going to those town halls and connecting with you behind the scenes, because I think that if the youth, and not even just the youth, but just people who are interested in sustainability, that's a huge one right there. That's going to open up a lot of conversations that a lot of these politicians they're not even near, they're too insulated to even have within earshot of that to really take it seriously. And it's something that could actually make you a runaway hero,
Right. Thank you. Well, thank you so much. I love talking about these things, sharing it and answering questions about myself, my campaign, my life. It was really great. So do I have your contacts, or I'll get them from Jody?
Please send Jody my love, and I'm in contact with her. Yes, definitely be in contact with her, figuring out how we can get in contact, how we can build more behind the scenes, because I think there's a real opportunity there, not just for you, but for other also unique alternative politicians who are maybe not a part of the club, but they still feel like, this is our country too, and we need to take some sort of decisive action. Sometimes we might not be able to wait for a politician to act for us when we have technology at our beck, and when we have these things on our utility bill. So streamlining change is huge for me, and streamlining productivity is key for me in according to establishing progress.
Right,
so I
right,
thank you. So I thank you so much, Molly, for coming on this show, and I look forward to whatever this turns into behind the scenes going forward.
Thank you so much.
You guys at home, Product as a Star, another great episode. It's always great being in Los Angeles and talking to the different people, the different movers, and the different shakers all across the world that are putting a new stamp on traditionally things that maybe need to be updated. So we love Product as a Star. We love the audience, and thank you, Molly, for joining us today.
And may I just give my my website?
Please, you can take us out.
It's mollyla2022.com.
Okay, mollyla2022.com. You guys go get over there, and let's get right on it. Let's take action. Find out these topics. Find out who these people are. That we found out who this person was. Somebody, just to summarize really quickly, who was into acting, was accomplished, overcame not being able to focus in that, and then turned it into service. And that's everybody's story. Nobody just comes out and then you don't become what you want as a child. There's trials and tribulations, and you turn into something else, and you turn those setbacks into triumphs. So thank you, Molly, for being an icon of that and joining us here. So
thank you so much. Happy holidays. I'll see you then. I'll talk to you hopefully sooner than later.
All right. Gratitude.
Thank you.